Hi, and welcome back to the shop. Well, we're going to be starting a new project today, and the project is one that I promised my wife I'd do for quite a while, and I'm finally getting around to doing it. What we're going to be building is a desk for my kids to do their homework. We want to keep computers in it and a printer, and we want to have it in our living room, but we don't want it to look like a desk. So my wife saw this old picture of an old Louis Vuitton traveling desk. It looked like a steamer trunk that you could open up, and there's like a little work surface and lots of storage area. So we're going to do something that's loosely based on that, although there are other trunk desks out there on the market. I looked at several of those. They cost about $3,000, and just decided that wasn't a direction I wanted to go. The desk is going to be frame and panel construction, and we'll be using cherry for the stiles and rails and maple for the panels. When I first started to draw up the desk on the whiteboard like I do my normal SketchUps for you, I started looking at it. It was just too many lines, and it looked like a housing unit inside of a penitentiary or something like that. So I thought I just grabbed an old box, and I thought I would go ahead and just kind of show you what it's going to look like. So if you can look at this and imagine that the green tape are the stiles and rails. This is kind of how it's going to be configured. This is not to scale by any means. It would actually be much narrower. But the idea is that you would be able to open the desk up from either side, and then inside there'll be storage space for a laptop computer, charging stations for anything that begins with I. Lots of storage will be in the doors here. There'll be a pull-out drawer. They'll probably hold a laptop computer. Just kind of try to keep it all together and really simple, nice place to work. Before we get started today, I'd like to take a moment to talk about shop safety. Be sure to read, understand, and follow all the safety instructions that come with your power tools. And if you don't know how to use something correctly, be sure to ask somebody that's competent that can show you how to do that. And remember, there's no more important safety rule than to use this, your brain. Because although doctors can reattach body parts, aftermarket or original equipment, it doesn't matter. They'll say it's the same, but it's not the same. Now let's get on with our project. As I mentioned before, the material that we're going to be using is hard maple for this project, for the panels. When I went down to buy the lumber, it all came in 10-foot lengths. Each panel is going to be a little less than 60 inches, so I just went ahead, I'm going to cut these in half, and then I can run them through the planer. I'm going to take them down to about a ½ inch in thickness, and then I'll raise one side of the panels before we do the construction. To cut the material, I'm using a 6-inch circular saw and just a speed square to keep the cut running straight. Well, I've gotten all the material cut to length, and now it's time to go ahead and plane it down to thickness. I have, I don't know, 16, 18 pieces here that I'm going to need to take down to a ½ inch. The material I got right now is right at 7/8, so it's going to take me quite a while to get this done. A couple things. First of all, my router table will support the end of the material as it goes in, so that's kind of nice. I made that at the same height, and I did that on purpose. Yeah, right. And the other thing that I've done is before I start any big project where I'm going to surface a lot of materials, I just put a coat of paste wax down on the bed of my planer, and that makes the material go through so much easier. It's surprising. One of the other things you might see me do is the wood comes out the other side. I'm going to look at it and see how the planer is cutting the material. I have a lot of cathedral grain, so that's pretty easy to know what direction that's going to go, but sometimes I get cathedral going in both directions, and what direction does it cut the best? So usually what I'll do is when I find a direction that cuts really well, I'll go ahead and I'll just take a piece of sidewalk chalk and I'll mark that end with an X so I know what direction to feed in first. Or conversely, if something comes through and it's all chipped up and torn out, then I'll mark the opposite end so I know that that would be the preferred end, hopefully, to feed that material through. Other than that, this is going to take several hours to get all this material down to the correct thickness, so there's no time like the present to get started. one of the things that I noticed as I was running material through the planer was that it was really struggling to remove material, and this planer does a really good job removing material, so I think the blades are just getting dull. I've gone ahead and ordered a new set of blades, but until then, just so that I can continue on with this project, I'm going to go ahead, pull these blades out, hone them a little bit, and put them back in to see if I can't get just a little bit more life out of them. After looking at the edge of this blade, it's extremely dull. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can't clean this up a little bit and see if it'll work. I'll go ahead and hit this with a hone, and we'll go around and do all the blades and see what we can come up with. To clean up the planer blades, I'm just using an old razor hone. This is a double-sided hone, and I'm just going to flatten the back of it out and see if that will take care of it. I've done this in the past, and it gets you a little bit more time on a set of blades, but not much. And I'll be honest, there is a noticeable difference in the edge of the hone. It's not much, but hopefully just enough to get me through a few more passes. I'll go ahead and install this back into the planer and do the rest of them. Now that I have all the planer blades honed, I went ahead and reinstalled them back into the planer and rehooked up the power and everything, and we're ready to go. Let's give it a try and see if we can get a little bit better result. Well, you could just tell from the sound of that it was cutting a lot better. I still have a lot more surfacing to do, so I'll just keep going at it till I'm done. I'm over here at the table saw now. I've gone ahead and surfaced all four sides of my material, and now I'm ready to rip it to the final width, which is going to be 2 inches for my stiles and rails. I've gone ahead and squared up one end of each of my rails, and now I have set up a stop block so that I can cut everything to the exact length. I'm now ready to go ahead and start the joinery on the stiles and rails for the carcass. And to do that, it's just going to be a simple 3/8 groove, and then I'll have a little corresponding 3/8 tenon that will go in there and hold it all together. I've gone ahead and set up everything, and I've run some samples, and basically I'm just using my stock table saw blade. I'm going to run the material through one way, I'll turn around, run it through the other. And one of the things you'll notice here is that I do have a little bit of waste material in the middle. Once I get everything run, then I'll just set the table saw up so that I can run them through and take that out as well. Now that I've made all the grooves in my stiles and rails, I can go ahead and make the tongues. And to do that, I've just set up a simple stop block at 3/8 of an inch, and I have the blade raised to 1/4 inch above the top of the table. I've identified all the rails that are going to receive tongues, and I have them setting over here, and I'll just go ahead and make those shoulder cuts now. Now that I've made all the shoulder cuts for my tongues, I'm going to go ahead and cut the cheeks off just by using my tenoning jig. Now that I have the tongue so that it slides in there nice and tight, one of the things you'll notice is that I have a gap on the top and the bottom, as well as a gap in here, just a little bit. And that's because I'm using an alternating top bevel table saw blade, so when I cut those grooves, it left little ridges inside there, and I'm going to have to get those out. Now, I've tried using a 1/4 inch chisel to kind of get in there and scrape that out, but that's not going to work. It's just a hair under, and I don't want to have to grind down a chisel just to fit inside there. So I'm just going to go ahead and make up some scratch stock using an old planer blade. Let me show you how I'm going to do that real quick. To make the scratch stock so that I can clean out the grooves, I've just taken a piece of a disposable planer blade from my planer, and I've cut it to length, and I'm going to go ahead and grind it down, and I'll just put an edge on it real quick. I have some water that I'll be quenching it in to kind of keep it cool, although I'm not super worried about the temper because this is just going to be a short-term tool that I'm only going to use a few times, and then I can discard it. So to start off with, now that I've got a piece cut off that I can use, and you can see I've kind of started to notch it in a little bit, I'll go ahead and grind that away. And to do that, I'm just using I have a 1-inch belt sander set up in a vise here that I'll be using to remove the material with. Now that I got my scratch stock basically trimmed down to size, you can see it's not very pretty, but it will work. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of put a little bit of a hollow grind on it with the whetstone here. I'm just going to do this freehand. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and take it to a diamond stone, and then we'll go ahead and finish it off real quick and get it ready for use. So to finish this up, I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick hand sharpening on some diamond stones. Like I say, I'm not trying to get this super sharp. I just want to get it to the point where it's going to take that groove out efficiently. And in case you're wondering, I did dull the sides of the blade, so I wouldn't be hurting myself that way. Go ahead and see if we can take that burr off. And that's a really nice sharp edge that should work perfectly in here in a scraping mode to remove that material. It does a really nice job. So to use the scratch stock, I'm just going to put it in there, and you can see that it will remove actually quite a bit of material rather quickly. If I were to test this out now, all of a sudden, I can pull this off here. Where I used to have a gap there, you can see now that I have a nice tight fit for my stiles and rails. I'll go ahead and do that where everything is going to mate together, and I'll be ready to jump over and start working on the panels. I have all my frames taken care of as far as the tongue and grooves are concerned. I've kind of just taped one together to give you an example of what this is going to be. This is actually going to be the top panel to the desk / trunk or whatever it is. Now inside these frames here, we're going to put panels, and obviously the panels are about a 1/2 inch thick, so there's quite a bit wider than that 1/4 inch gap that's actually in there. So we're going to go ahead and work on raising these panels. It's just kind of something fun I like to do, where I raise the panels, and my wife actually wants the flat side out, so we'll put the raised side in just to add that little bit of weirdness to it, because that tends to be what I do. I have the router table set up with the panel raising bit. I have my fence set. I've slowed the router speed down quite a bit, and now it's just a matter of going through and raising it up a little bit at a time. It's going to take several passes to take that much material off of these panels. One of the things you'll notice is that when I'm raising a panel, I'll always start and run the end grain first. And I'll do that on both ends. And the reason for that is that if there's any tear out or something that can occur, then when I run the long side, that will eliminate that tear out, so you get nice clean panels in the end. Well, I've gone ahead and finished raising the panel, and just for grins and giggles, I went ahead and stuck it in the frame, and you can see this is going to look pretty good. The reality is that's what you're actually going to see, but still, I really like the way this is turning out. Because these panels are going to be floating freely inside the frame, I want to make sure that when they expand and contract that you wouldn't see any lines or anything that might not have finish on them. So I'm going to go ahead and sand them and put a couple coats of polyurethane on it before I actually do the assembly. I'm going to start off just by sanding to 150. I'll put kind of a sealer coat on, then sand it to 220. And put additional coats on as I feel are necessary. Well, that's all I have time for today. Hopefully by next time I will have sanded and applied finish to the panels. At that time we can go ahead and assemble the frames and start assembling the carcass. As usual, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to email me. Until next time, enjoy your day.